Welcome back to the channel, and can you see that? There is sun in the sky, and now you got the beautiful background back again. Anyways, you want to learn how to steal from films, right? Stealing is something we all do as artists, whether it's subconscious or conscious. We all take inspiration from everything. I mean, we are all made up of all the experiences and people we've met and places we've been and things we've seen, and so is our art. It's just a product of everything we've seen. There is no shame in taking inspiration from the things we love. We do it all the time. It's like a nod to the artist. The only thing is the difference between stealing and copying. Stealing and referencing is more like you use stuff from a different artist, right? Maybe it's composition, as kind of a stylistic choice, something like that. But copying would be maybe writing the entire plot the same. And there is room for copying, I think, in the film, as an independent filmmaker. If you're starting out, just like the way in art class you sometimes will copy a famous piece of art to get better. And as long as you reference, give credit to the artist who made it, I think there is room for that because it is practice. You add more tools and you learn a lot, and it develops you as a filmmaker. But the goal is, again, to draw inspiration from all of these and then become a holistic artist and then develop your own unique style. But again, that takes time because we are going to be derivative of our favorite artists in the beginning because that's just natural in the process of becoming a filmmaker, an artist, or whatever you want to be. But I'm going to talk about the things that I've done and the actual stealing that I've done as an artist. Firstly, composition. Sometimes when I'm watching a film, I'll just see an amazing, beautiful, just incredible composition. I'll be like, okay, I want that. I want to recreate that. I'll note it back for later. Since the context is different, the plot is different, the characters are different, and since you are different, the exact image will never be reproduced. You're always creating something new, even if you're being inspired by something else, right? For example, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, one of my favorite films of all time, by the way, just phenomenal. There is a scene where Heloise is on the beach and she's like fucking amazing. Anytime I'm on the beach, I'm like, okay, we need to recreate that scene. We need to recreate it. It needs to look beautiful because I'm so inspired by it. And as long as you're open about who your references are and stuff, I think it's great. I mean, I love to be inspiring people, you know? Another example is in my new feature film that's not out yet, but I'm gonna make a video about it. But for the pitch deck, I had to create a poster. In it, it's very, as you can see here, it's very inspired by this Boyhood cover with the grass and also Call Me By Your Name. The fact that I can recognize those references and kind of draw inspiration from them and create something completely different or completely new, that's what kind of stealing like an artist is. Anything you do will never be exactly the same as the artist you're trying to copy. So you are developing your own style, and art is a process. So another thing I often get inspired by is actually action. So for my IB final film, Adam and I decided to create this film that was kind of based in a theater, and it's these two actors fighting off in the scene, right? And that is very inspired by Barry, also very inspired by Whiplash. And so we could recognize those influences and kind of create a film based on kind of the action that was happening in those films, especially in Barry. What ended up was actually not at all similar because it's completely different context, again, plot, characters. Some people might not even have been able to recognize the influences. From that starting point, the art goes so much faster because you have a kind of starting point. You want something similar to this, or you want to evoke the feelings that this film evokes. Another thing I also get inspired by is concept. So for the running scene, the infamous running scene that has been seen in countless amounts of film, this is something that has been used over and over again, and it's always the same shot. It's either from the side or from the front, right? In my film, One Last Century, I did it from the front, and it's a concept that is reused over and over again because other artists steal from each other, and it's just something that looked nice that everyone decided to use collectively, and it's such a fun thing. The running scene was inspired by all the films I've seen before with running, such as like Forrest Gump, Stand By Me. I still created something completely new, but I was inspired by it. Another concept for my new feature film, Blue Hour, is actually taken from one of my favorite directors and one of my favorite films of all time called The Four Adventures of Raina and Mirabel. Absolutely phenomenal film. Go watch it. I loved it. It's just an incredible piece of art. And there is this one scene where they're talking about Blue Hour. I'd never heard of Blue Hour before.
Tu connais l'heure bleue?
L'heure bleue.
En fait, c'est pas une heure, c'est une minute. Juste avant l'aube, il y a une minute de silence.
And then when they start talking about it, I just fell in love with the concept and decided to write a whole feature film based on the concept, kind of. Even though it has nothing to do with the original film, it still has that Blue Hour touch and kind of like a little reference to my favorite director. And this goes back to general idea of watching films and getting immediately inspired. Like all the time I'll be watching a film and then I'll have my notepad with me and I'll be like, oh my god, I suddenly get an idea from this film. Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, these characters would look great in this situation, then that gets me writing. And then you also learn a lot from it, you know? What has this successful director done? Why is this film so successful, or as successful as it is? And then you get inspiration. This is such a beautiful day. Do you see the wind? It's just absolutely incredible, guys. I just so happy to be here. But yeah, don't be afraid of stealing. It's something natural everyone does. Just be aware of it, conscious of it, talk about it, be open about it. If you do take very obvious references, you know, we should learn from the best. There's no harm in that. You know, every artist does it. You know, Tarantino did it. He stole from a lot of films, and now we're stealing from him, right? It goes back and forth. You know, it's a process, and art, again, we're just a product of everything we've seen. But if you guys have conscious influences, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. If you guys, again, I mentioned this in the last video, but if you have screenplays and films that you want me to watch, absolutely love to watch them. There's a boat. I'd absolutely love to watch them, you know? But thank you so much for staying this long. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.